Okay, we are going to move on, and for the next hour or so, we are going to tell you about our trip to Costa Rica. We are so grateful for all of the prayers that have come from this body, for all the finances, for all of the support. We felt it. We know that God wanted us to go, and we're really excited to tell you about what he accomplished there. I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of a day in the life, and then we're going to move into our kids feature, which is going to be the songs that we sang for the Costa Rican children. I actually translated them, so you'll be able to sing too, all right? But let me give you a quick snapshot of a day in the life. The bus would come to our hotel, which I'm sure someone will tell you had no hot water. And we got on the bus at 10 to 7. All right, so 10 to 7, we're on the bus. We go to Damian and Emily's house. We eat breakfast. We prep our candy bags, and we gave candy bags out to every VBS. And then once we were done, our coffee, our food, and our candy bags, we got on the bus again. We drive about 45 minutes to a community called Cuatro Cruces, which is 4 crosses. We would do VBS there, and the VBS would consist of games that were informal and formal. We would sing the songs that we're going to sing to you here today. And then one of our team would do a devotional. It looks like you're going to see one of the devotionals at least. Or I see something that was maybe 10% of a devotional. We're going to get 10% of a devotional here today. But we would do a devotional for the kids, translated, and then we would get in the bus. We would go back to Damian and Emily's. We would eat lunch, and then we get in the bus again, and we would drive about, an hour? Hour and a half, probably. We would drive a total of 15 kilometers in an hour and a half. All right, now I don't know, some of you have been to rough roads, and when it rains in Costa Rica, that's the rain that God used to flood the earth. All right, he took Costa Rican settings and he turned it on around the whole globe. And it just basically would wash the roads out. There was potholes that I feel were as tall as the pulpit, but probably weren't. But the bus would waddle through the puddles and the holes to get to a community called Los Yasmines. That was where we did our second VBS. We would do almost the exact same thing with a lot more soccer. And then we would get in the bus. We would come home. We would have supper. And supper together as a team, and then sometimes we'd go home to crash, and other times we'd have an activity in the evening. If you're not getting it, we spent so much time on that bus, 4 hours a day on that bus. Lots of stuff happened on the bus. We don't have time to show you all the pictures, but all the team would love to show you their pictures. We did that for 5 days. We did a number of other activities. You might hear about some of them here. I'm not actually sure what the team is going to report, but that was our typical day in the life when we were there. The rest of it, I think we'll share as a group, but we'll start with our kids feature. So team, if you can come up on stage, everyone who would normally come up for a kids feature, come up, sit in the front row. So let's go, Costa Rica team. Come on now. We would sing, so kids and adults, we would sing these same songs every single time. We didn't have PowerPoint projectors. We didn't have anything to spread the words. So we just sang the same ones over and over and over and over again in the same order. So we are going to show those words up on the screen, and they are going to have actions. They are also translated to English, so you are welcome to sing along. Kids, we never let any of the kids sit down. You had to stand. All right, so kids, you're going to stand. Adults, all the adults we allowed to sit because they were doing other stuff. So our team is going to do actions. They're going to go somewhere else. They're really planning behind me here. And if they... you guys can also, you gave me some lyrics. That's El Arca, so you can each hold one of those if you need to. They are not on the screen. El Arca is not on the screen. Okay, so this is how it would work. We would plan and execute on the fly. Kids would be standing here waiting to hear what we had to say. If you kids can read and you'd like to sing along, the English is at the top, and they're all songs that you know except for the last one. The last one, you won't have a clue. All I can tell you, it's about Noah's Ark, and you'll have to guess which animals we're singing about. That's your question for the day. What animals is the team singing about. But before we do that, we'll do these familiar songs, okay? and what it would be like to be there. So you won't understand most of it, but you might get an idea of the animals that the ark had on it. All right? Quiero cantarles una historia de un hombre que creyó en Dios, aunque la gente se burlaba, con su fe un arca construyó. Pronto vinieron muchas lluvias y un gran diluvio apareció, junto con toda su familia. Los animales salvaron. Quiero conocer el arca de Noé. Con los animales yo quiero correr. Escuchar venir al fuerte león y los canguros a la devoción. Luego pasaron muchos días hasta que la tierra se secó. Dios pudo abrirles para encontrarnos en su amor. Quiero conocer el arca de Noé. Con los animales yo quiero correr. Escuchar venir al fuerte león y con los canguros a la devoción. Quiero conocer el arca de Noé. Con los animales yo quiero correr. Cazar con los monos y cantar así. La 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 la. Quiero ver jugar al elefante con la jirafa y la tortuga. Quiero ver lanzar las mariposas y las aves cantando juntas. Quiero ver jugar al elefante con la jirafa y la tortuga. Quiero ver lanzar las mariposas y las aves cantando juntas. Quiero conocer el arca de Noé. Con los animales yo quiero correr. Escuchar venir al fuerte león y con los canguros a la devoción. Quiero conocer el arca de Noé. Con los animales yo quiero correr. Cazar con los monos y cantar así. La 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 la. Okay, kids, you can sit. Oh, no, I just mean sit here. So what animals were here? Joe, don't go anywhere because I don't know all the animals. What animals were mentioned? Do you guys know? Nora, do you have an idea? Monkeys? Yep, those are the monos. Yep. Benj? Giraffes? Yeah, you can tell from Joe's elegant giraffe. Haley, what do you think? The elephants, yes. Hunter? Kangaroos, yeah. Gideon? Lions, that's the leon, yeah. Cheetahs? I don't think so. No, but good guess. Tigers, there weren't any tigers. Well, there's only, oh, birds. There's birds, and there was one where they were doing, I don't know how to do it. A butterfly, that's a mariposa. Huh? What's the other one? Oh, tortuga. What's a tortuga? It is a kind of animal. A turtle. Nice. Good work, guys. Yeah, tortuga is turtle. All right, so if you're ever wondering what Pirates of the Caribbean is talking about, it's Turtle Island, all right? That solved a mystery for me. Okay, that's all for kids feature, so you guys can head back and sit down. Thank you so much. We gave out free candy for at VBS, so you guys just get a free candy today after the service is over. All right, look at that. And Joe will go get free candies later. Yeah, okay. Okay, so for the next little while, we are going to let each team member come up and share with you what they learned, what they loved, what they were challenged by, and most importantly, what they're going to do now that they've done this trip. It's short-term missions it's a large outlay of money for a very short amount of time, and we do it so that we can achieve a number of goals. One of those is making us better disciples of Christ as we go forward in our own context. And so these folks are going to tell you, some are going to use pictures, some are not, and they're going to just let you share with you in their own words and at their own speed what they have learned, what they loved, what they're challenged by, and what they're going to do. And I haven't told them the order, but I will tell you that Brody is first. So you kids, Henry, you can just show up the first slide there. And so when you see your name, you're up. Brody, come. I see your name. You should be. That
wasn't very nice.
Well, you're not a very nice person. Okay, thanks. So if you want him to show a specific picture, just tell him, but he'll just cycle through.
Yeah, sure. You can just kind of cycle through the pictures. I'll just talk about them briefly.
Okay, so he'll tell you. So just say next slide when you want him to change. Team, when you want him to change, tell him next slide. My poor son has the biggest PowerPoint Park has ever had, ever.
There you go. All right. Yeah. So here.
You hold this.
Oh. Dang. All right. Wow. I got a little excited there for a second. So I just took a few pictures of like some of the houses in Costa Rica, so you guys can kind of get a feel for what it was like. I would honestly say for some of the communities we went to, this was definitely one of the nicer houses. But yeah, as you guys can see, just kind of like wood walls, nothing too crazy, like not even windows. Yeah, Henry, you can go to the next slide. This is another one here. They had lots of like kind of interesting colors, which I found kind of cool. Lots of like teal, yellow colors like that. But yeah, you guys can see all that. Henry, next slide. This was our children's church that we did. Had like a little VBS at Emily and Damian's, so lots of the kids there. And as you can see, they all kind of just didn't take much time to warm up to us, which was definitely a blessing. There wasn't really much of an awkward phase with getting to know them. I'm sure you'll hear everyone else talk about it, but we had lots of soccer, pretty much played it the whole time at lots of the VBSs, other than doing the lessons, obviously. This was one of the kids' bikes that I thought was pretty cool. Had like a little duck on it. But yeah, that was one of the kids me and Carter met. And he was yeah, I was debating whether or not I should say that, but I may have hit a misfire and hit the poor kid in the head, but I don't know. He was pretty tough. He took it like a champ. This was one of the other kids at the first community we went to. It was kind of a little funny for me because he was a bit of a troublemaker. He loved to kick me and grab my hair and whatnot. So he ended up kind of becoming my little buddy when we were playing Duck, Duck, Goose. So that's pretty cool. This is some other people from the second community, two Kevins and Kevin's little kid, older Kevin's kid. Yeah, they're pretty insane at soccer, but pretty cool to get to meet those guys. This was kind of the building of the first community we went to. It's pretty much just a massive open space, cement floor, and that's where we did lots of VBS to try to get out of the heat a little, but it ended up being just like a Dutch oven in there, so.
That's your last picture.
The last picture? Awesome. Time to get into the good stuff, I guess. All right, so there were a lot of things I loved about this trip. I've always been big on travel and like experiencing new cultures and food, so that was pretty cool. We had the opportunity to make tamales, which was definitely neat. I really enjoyed getting to know lots of the kids in the short time we had. Yeah, like I said, it didn't take much for them to warm up to us, so that was pretty cool. It was neat for me to see the progression from the first time we were there, handing out school supplies and whatnot, to the last day, when all the kids would pay way more attention to the lessons. Yeah, at the start felt like kind of weird just because we'd have to tell the kids like, oh, come over here, like we're going to do the lessons now, and we were singing all these songs that they didn't know, and so it kind of felt like we were just a little bit crazy. But then by the end of it, lots of the kids kind of learned the songs and even did some of the actions. And when we would tell them that like we were starting to do the lessons, they just come on inside and find a seat and seemed to be paying a lot more attention during our mini lessons. The other thing I loved is, like I said, it seemed to take no time for the kids to warm up to us. Definitely being from another country and speaking a different language, we were definitely outsiders, but it was really neat to be able to just kind of fit right in with everyone. Like I said, there wasn't really much of an awkward stage. Some of the challenges I faced was definitely the language barrier. My Spanish isn't great, and after the first day it was pretty difficult because we already knew everyone's names and asked them all the basic things we could in Spanish. So I had a lot of trouble trying to build relationships in the way that I thought was best and kind of just the way I wanted to. I was kind of thrown off of that a little bit. That definitely made it a little harder because I just wanted to get to know these kids. I wanted to ask them about their hobbies, schools, their home lives, etc. And it was pretty much impossible to do this with the language barrier. There were many things that this trip taught me. It taught me that there's very little in life we can actually control. We faced a lot of difficult things, plane delays. At one point we thought we were just going to completely miss our plane. The water in our hotel just kind of stopped working for no reason. And also it would just randomly start pouring rain, like Phil said. It was pretty crazy how it would just kind of turn on and off. This kind of showed me the importance of trusting God and putting things that I can't control in His hands, because it's not really worth it to just get caught up in things that you can't control. I also learned the importance of building relationships in sharing the gospel. It's really important because people are very unlikely to listen to what you have to say if they don't know you or trust you or anything like that. So that's why I think it was really cool that we were able to play so much soccer with these kids and they could kind of get to know us a little bit in the brief time we were there. I think that made our messages a lot more impactful. I also learned that little efforts can go a long way. We really didn't do anything insane or labor intensive. We just went to this community and showed them the love of Jesus that we've all been shown. And we just tried to make them have as much fun as possible and teach them as much as we could in this short time. But God is able to use this to do amazing things and hopefully spark some curiosity in those kids' minds that Damien and Emily can feed on. So what now? I want to continue to trust in God even more. Like I said, there's lots of things we can't control. So rather than wasting time stressing over these things, I want to give them to God and put them in His hands. I want to be able to put more time into serving God. And one little way I realize we can do this is by just showing the love of God to those around us, even people we might not know or may dislike. It's a very simple thing that we can all do super easily. One thing I always heard is that they'll know we are Christians by our love. And I don't know if maybe this phrase seemed to be dulled just because I heard it so much growing up as a kid, but it's something super simple that can make such a huge impact, and this trip really reinforced that for me. Thank you.
So, as the screen nicely pointed out, my name is Cassie Taylor, if you don't know me. So, I really enjoyed the trip to Costa Rica. I learned many things, but they didn't all click in my head right away. If you were to ask me what's one thing you took away from this, it may seem odd, but I would have to pause and fully think, since this is a new experience for me. God took His time in showing, explaining, and teaching me things. I had to sit down, think, and fully process the experience that I went through to understand what I learned and what I was taught. However, one thing that Jesus taught me is that everybody is gifted in their own ways, and with the gifts we are given, we can reach certain people. For example, Trina and Victoria are both natural leaders and very creative people. Because of this, they connected so well with the women and the moms on our teams. They led a craft that they did with them almost every day in 2 different places. They could barely speak the same language as them, but they still managed to connect, and seeing the way that they all laughed together was incredible. Brody, Carter, Brennan, Joe, and Evie are all very athletic, competitive, and funny. They were able to laugh and joke around with everyone on the soccer field. They ran for at least an hour straight while playing soccer with these kids, and trying to prove that they were better at soccer than they were. Also, seeing Brody and Carter, they were the only 2 male teenagers there, and there were lots of boys there who were teenagers. And so when the boys were up there dancing and doing the singing and doing the actions and sitting paying attention to the sermons as the people spoke, you could tell that encouraged the other teenage guys to actually listen and pay attention as well. Phil is naturally a welcoming guy. He could be with anyone, no matter their age, and they would be laughing by the end of their conversation. The first hug I saw a kid give to someone, was from a little girl to Phil after he gave a backpack full of school supplies to her. They were hugging. Oh, no, sorry, I skipped ahead. Maggie connected really well with the younger girls. They loved hugging her and being held by her. She could easily make them laugh. Alyssa also connected extremely well with the younger girls. Whether it was turning the jump rope for an hour straight, blowing bubbles, or coloring, the little girls loved her. Lauren was great with the young adults, especially the ones on our team who were from Costa Rica. Some of them were able to speak English, and you would often overhear her having conversations with the people. You could hear her talking to them on the bus. She was great to include others and help where she was needed, no matter what she had to do or who it involved. Liam was also willing to do anything with the kids. You could find him coloring with the younger boys and girls, or blowing bubbles. You could find him playing a volleyball circle with the teenagers. I loved getting to learn more about my team members and seeing God work through them in ways that I possibly maybe not have pictured. One thing that challenged me was obviously the language difference, but it was also the part of sacrificing what I wanted to do for what the kids wanted. Everything we did there was very fun. But, for example, if I was spinning the jump rope and a volleyball game was being started, I might want to join the volleyball, but it was more important for me to continue doing jump rope with the girls because that's where they wanted me. Returning from the trip, I have a few things that will change. The main one being my mindset towards the phrase WWJD. What would Jesus do? I love this phrase, and I have many bracelets that say that to remind me, but I find it's a very broad phrase. Instead, on the trip, I liked thinking, what would Jesus do in this exact situation? It made me consider, if he was here instead of me, what would he do? In the example I gave earlier, instead of going and joining a volleyball game, he would continue to spin the jump rope for the little girls as they laughed and jumped. It made me feel closer to him in this way, and it made me truly consider how my actions can reflect what he has to say. I actually didn't take a look at the pictures. I just kind of put random ones up there. I'm assuming they went through them all, but those were just some pictures from my trip that I thought I wanted to share. Thank you.
There really was a memo that went out that we should wear our Costa Rica shirts. Oops. There's a little video here. This is an almond tree, and you just have to watch. It was really cool to see this anthill and just realize that we are very much like this. The harvest is plenty and the workers are few. And then we thought we'd create a little bit of a stir and draw a line in their lineup. And so we kind of paused there for a little while and watched them kind of try to figure it out. And then, because there's always a natural born leader somewhere, somebody figured out to go that way. But what Victoria and I really did was we stomped on the one hole because the other hole was really big on the other side. So what I learned about this trip is partnership. Like you heard from Cassie, there was 4 different groups. There was a soccer group, there was a skip rope group, there was a coloring group, and there was a craft group. And everybody kind of took their turn where their gift was as to what you did in that group. And I think about what Damien and Emily are trying to do there, and it's just them. It's just the 2 of them trying to reach out to these different groups of people and trying to show them the love of Jesus. So that was a huge part of the joy of being on this trip. The interaction with the women, we won't go there, not yet, Henry. Even though there was a language barrier, the women still understood us. They understood her humor and they understood love. Teaching the embroidery class. Now we can go to it. Oh, that's Marjorie, the next one. That one. So the first day we had maybe 2-3 moms, and just like us as moms, we come to an event and we sit and we talk. But now you're stuck with an English-speaking person and no español hablo, like not my thing. And that's not how you say it, by the way, in case you want to be on Duolingo. And these women just sat down and said, okay, you brought us something. What are we going to learn? And I said, here you go. And it was very humbling because a lot of these women didn't know how to sew, didn't know how to tie a knot, didn't know a lot of things, but yet they were willing just to listen and learn and welcome us right into their lives. And there's only one person, if you look at the women's names, there's only one person, I cannot remember her name for the love of everything. So Raina's at the very end on this side with glasses. She told me that she had one grade level. She had grade 1, and that was it. And her handwriting on her sheet was just beautiful, and that she appreciated that we were coming to teach in such a beautiful way for them. What challenged me was the motion, being on that bus. Let me tell you, I walked to church Sunday morning because I did not want to be in another vehicle with 4 tires and something I had no control of. And that included the airplane. I was extremely anxious going on this trip just because I'd never been out of the country, and it's just not my kind of motion. I firmly like my feet on the ground. I was also challenged from wanting, like Cassie, to play soccer or be in another group, but I also knew that that wasn't what I was meant to do as I was there. The other part was the lack of silence. Thank you for being that ambulance driver. That was one of the things. You might think that I'm a really loud person all the time and I like noise. I actually really don't. I go home to a quiet house that's empty, and it's my rebuilding time. It's my growth time, and there was traffic. Jay breaks at 3 a.m., busting right past our hotel room. Motorcycles that apparently it was a speed-up version, I think, right in front of our hotel. And there really wasn't a lot of time to be still for me and have zero movement to just really have my own personal time and conversations with God. What did I learn? Oh boy. The importance of prayer and the power of prayer. When I got home and on Sunday, I was really depleted, and I didn't realize how depleted I was. And mentally and spiritually, just from being nonstop, pouring our hearts out to these people that don't understand our language, don't understand our ways. And I didn't realize how much I really needed to be here Sunday morning last week. And the music that Taylor had picked and how it just really re-poured into me what I had been missing and how important it means to be connected with home. We have these missions people that are out there, and they know what our music is. They know what the way we talk, the way we speak, the way we interact with each other. You may have been on a trip to somewhere hot and you run into somebody from Saskatoon and you end up hanging out with them for your time there because they understand us as Canadians. Just like our South African families, I want to make sure that you're kept together as a family because you understand your cultures and you understand your language and the events that make you happy. And that was something that really spoke to me, was just how much you guys had prayed for this trip to give me that extra strength to not completely run out of energy for these women and these children and for the team. Going forward, so for me, a lot of it is prayer and the power of that prayer and what it means to be quiet. The purpose of prayer and why it's such a blessing. praying with the noise and needing to keep that as my lifeline. Thinking that I need that quiet time, but really knowing that God is always there. Whether it's quiet, whether it's noisy, whether we're in the freezer or we're in the hot sun. And even wearing something thin like this causes you to have elbow sweat. Excuse me. The last thing, these women, they taught us how to love, and that love knows no barriers, not even language. And they were willing to let us into their lives, into their humor, into their own stories. There's a couple women there, I didn't write this down by the way, that I ended up sharing my testimony with them. And Marjorie, if you go to the next picture, this is Marjorie, our interpreter. And she was a very quiet, reserved woman, very faithful, very dedicated. And this craft taught her that she had to learn a different kind of Spanish because hoops, like embroidery hoops, is not an actual word in Spanish. And you can't call it ola ola because that's a hula hoop. And so she had to come up with something else. So teaching this craft really challenged her with her English and Spanish and the conversion. And how she loved us. And how Damien's family loved us. And that even though we're miles away, there is still love. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carter. There's many things I loved about this trip, but one thing that stands out is being able to connect to the kids through sports. Even though there is a language barrier, we were able to connect by playing soccer with them and other activities with them. There's a few things that challenged me, but one main thing was attempting to have a conversation with the people there and to build relationships with them despite the hindrance of the language barrier and just talking with them. I learned that God can use people through actions alone to bring others closer to Him. And by us hanging out and playing with them, we were able to build trusting relationships with them and hopefully lasting relationships with them, and that they continue going to church. Now, I will use what I learned by not only talking to people about Jesus, but also showing the love of Jesus through my actions in my everyday life. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I guess first thing, I've come to this church my whole life. I've often wondered, we've sent out lots of missionaries and we've supported them for a long time, and I've always just kind of sat in my chair and wondered, what do these people actually do? Like we give them money and they come here and they give us an update, but unless you go actually kind of see, you don't really truly know. And I'd just like to share with all you guys that we got 2 missionaries there that are awesome. It was really apparent right from the start that we couldn't have done anything that we did without the groundwork that they laid for us. Like, even just to go into some of these people's homes, stand at their front door, we were just the weird, crazy white people, but they did just so much work ahead of time in these communities and getting to know the people that made it possible for us. And Damian especially, man, that guy loves the Lord and will use every opportunity to tell everybody about him, which is really cool to see, so I want to encourage you guys with that. It's hard to pick one thing that I really loved, but I loved everything. It brought me back a lot of good memories of working at Stony. I really felt in my element. And it was really cool how natural it was to work with Omni and Emily after having worked with Emily at Stony for quite a few years. It was really cool how we just kind of just jumped right back into that kind of camp mode, and everything just clicked really good. But if I had to pick one thing that I loved, it was all of our youth. As a congregation, we should be super, super proud of these young men and women. They really stepped up the whole time. On the last day, I think, after it had rained for 40 days and 40 nights, it was pouring rain again, and me and Phil were inside the little kind of covered shed area, and we were standing in the doorway looking and watching all the youth and Joe running around in the rain again, playing soccer like every day. And Phil looked at me and said, "I think I'm going to play the old man card and not go out." And I looked at him and I said, "I think I am too." But so then I got to I spent 2 hours or an hour and a half holding the largest baby in human history. I don't know how old she was, like 13 months. One? She had to be 50 pounds. And I wish I had a good picture, but she kind of gave everybody the evil eye all week and didn't want, but then that day she just came up to me and hands up in the air, and then I just sat with her for the whole day, which was really my style. The big thing that I learned, and I talked to Phil about this earlier, and I shared this with the team while we were there, it's kind of weird that I didn't take necessarily something from the trip specifically, but more of an issue that I have back home. And that being, why did I need to travel 5,000 plus kilometers away to really get to know some of the people that I was on the trip with? I'll use the example of Liam as I did when we were down there. Liam is a really awesome guy, and we actually have a ton in common, but I didn't know any of that. We've attended the same church for 13 years, and I didn't really know any of that stuff about him. And this is a pretty glaring problem to me. Being a Christian is really, really hard, and we need people, and we often surround ourselves with just a couple people that we connect with, but there's 200-ish on any given Sunday, really awesome people in our congregation that are all from different walks of life and different stages of life. And it's pretty sad to just hunker yourself down in your own little clique and not go meet and get to know those people, because they probably have something that they can teach you and that you can learn from them. And there's no excuse to not know that. Especially for me, it really hit me. I've been on the elders board for I think 5 years, and there's still people here that I probably need to do a better job of getting to know. And so I don't necessarily, what I'm going to do is that really simply, I'm going to do better at doing that. I don't know what that practically looks for me right now. I'm kind of wrestling through that, but that is what I learned. And I guess just the last thing I'll say, I think these trips are going to continue to happen, hopefully, every couple of years or so. And when they do, if you consider going, I strongly encourage you to take your spouse if you can. Serving together is super important. It'll deepen your connection together with one another. It'll strengthen your marriage through serving together. And you'll build more trust and appreciation for one another and grow in your faith together. So, thanks.
Okay, so my name is Maggie, and I have really enjoyed going on this trip. It is probably one of the best experiences, and it will always be at the top of my list. One thing I really loved about this trip was the feeling that came along with it. It was the feeling that we were planting seeds into these children's lives, that we knew that we were going to help them start a relationship with Jesus. and that inspired me, and that feeling kept me going all week. One thing that challenged me on this trip was the feeling that I wasn't doing enough, really. Despite that amazing feeling I had about planting seeds, I also felt like I needed to do more. I wanted to talk to the kids a lot more personally about Jesus, but because of the language barrier, it was harder to do that. One thing I learned on this trip was how privileged and blessed I am. As you guys saw before, the houses in Costa Rica are very small and not really enough for a big family. And I realized that I should be more grateful for what I have and pray for those people for what they need. One thing I will do going toward, my faith is talking about the gospel more and not being afraid to. Even if I couldn't do it in Spanish, I should not be afraid to do it in English. I also learned that I need to be more grateful too. I love this trip, and hopefully I can go again soon. And also thank you to everyone in the church for your support and prayers. We really needed it, so thank you so much.
Everyone. So I am not someone who really enjoys traveling, but I did really enjoy the trip. I told someone as I was going, the only reasons I travel are for food and for Jesus. Otherwise, I'll be very content to just stay where I am. You can cycle through the soccer pictures as I'm talking. I really enjoyed playing soccer. I played soccer when I was a kid growing up, and it's my favorite sport to play. And so it was a huge blessing to be able to go and play soccer for hours a day with all of these kids who thoroughly enjoyed and loved playing soccer with us. Also, they do not take it easy, especially on kids. I played keep away with like two other like teenage guys and a 6-year-old, and they were just merciless with this kid. But it was cool because the kid just didn't give up. He just kept trying for like 15 minutes, and eventually he was like, okay, I'm going to go do the next thing. But it was a lot of fun just playing with them and experiencing their culture and joking with them. This is playing soccer through the downpour, and it was wild. There were some kids, they were in net, and I would shoot, and whenever they would save it, they would call me malo, which means you're bad. So that was a lot of fun to, like, once someone's bugging you, then you know that you got an in. But it was a lot of fun serving with the teenagers that were on our trip, the youth, and it was cool to serve with them here on a weekly basis, but then serve there and to see them do well. And I also want to say, we held our own playing soccer. We did pretty good. Yeah, and it was cool that the people we built relationships playing soccer were more than willing to come in after and hear about God afterwards. Some of the challenges on our trip, the crazy hot and humidity. One time I was off delivering stuff, and we came back, and Brennan's shirt was more sweat than it was shirt, but it was because it was so hot. Me and Carter also had a little adventure with our hotel room, and you can ask us about that later, but it was something. Also, my body is not used to that much exercise. After the second day of soccer, I realized like, I have not moved that much in quite a long time, but the Lord sustained me. Something I felt God teaching me on the ship wasn't actually on the ship. You can go, I think, back one. Nope. Oh, Phil didn't add it. That's okay. That's fine. I don't like being away from my family, and it was hard to leave them for 10 days, but also while I was gone, Leah was pretty sick with influenza A, and so it's really tough leaving your spouse with sick children while you're away serving the Lord. But I felt God reminding me and teaching me to trust Him, especially when you're in a foreign country, also always think of like the worst case scenarios that could happen, but knowing that God is good and he loves my family more than I do. And so no matter what happens, I can trust my family with him because God's got them. And it was also really cool to hear how many of you served and helped out Shelby and the kids while I was away. So that was a good teaching and reminder that we can trust God no matter what. And then going forward, it helped me to remember to be thankful for the things that I have. And it also makes me excited for the week we have coming up. Right, Family Fun Days, we get to do a lot of the same stuff we did in Costa Rica, just with our own community. So it just makes me more excited to serve our community. Also, for the record, it's not that picture. There's another picture where with all of us guys, and there's a conveniently placed shadow right over my eyeball. I do not have a black eye. It's just a shadow. Thanks.
Hello. Hi. So for the first 3 pictures or so, a major highlight for me was being able to play music in Costa Rica. It was very cool being able to see the kids there get more and more into the songs we were playing, as you saw, as the week went on, to the point where they would have the actions and the words actually memorized in some cases. I feel like that's a memory that they'll have for a long time to come. And then the next 7 pictures or so is the thing I love the most about the trip, which was the various devotionals that the team members did and the Bible stories told by them. It was cool to be able to see God work through all of us, as well as the translators we had, to be able to get past the language barrier in order to tell these kids the importance of having Jesus in their lives. Especially for those to whom speaking in large groups is a challenge for, such as myself. Also I want to mention, because I know I'm going to get a lot of questions, the instrument I was playing is called a melodica. I also found it very encouraging that the Spanish we were able to study prior to leaving for the trip, as little as it was very fruitful in being able to actually form relationships with some of the people we met there. A challenge for me on the trip was the fact that halfway through it, I had rolled my ankle and was mostly unable to participate in a lot of the games we were doing as part of the VBS. It was annoying having to sit on the sidelines for a lot of those activities. Of course, I still did what I was able to, and instead of being out in the field playing soccer, you could find me inside coloring with some of the younger kids, which I think was up there at some point. It was actually kind of nice being able to have very simple conversations with simple-minded young kids. Little things like complimenting their coloring or helping them to find what color crayon they wanted to use. It's hard to say what exactly I learned on the trip. I was more so just vastly inspired by the work that Emily and Damian are doing down there in Upala and its surrounding communities. They are tapping into and creating a youth ministry there that has huge potential for furthering the kingdom of God and spreading the word of the gospel in general. And the amount of work that they have put into their own community has certainly inspired me to hopefully do the same here in Alford.
Okay, so my name is Victoria. In Spanish, it's Victoria. But somewhere along the line, everybody got to think it was Gloria. So for most of the trip, I was called Gloria. I don't think even my husband knows that. I want to start with a Bible verse and then just hold on to the pictures, Henry, until I get to them. You, my brothers, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the sinful nature. Rather, serve one another in love. The entire law is summed up in a single command: love your neighbor as yourself. So this is the Costa Rica that many of you know or have seen, and we did experience it. I'm surprised nobody said their favorite thing on the trip was the beach day. But this was one of the beaches that we went to on our very last day. And when the very first time I had ever been on a warm vacation was just after I'd had cancer. And my thyroid had quit working and I finally was on medication. I remember we went to Huatulco in Mexico. It was the very first time in years that I had been warm. So everyone assured me that I would be warm in Costa Rica, and I said, I don't think so, because there's going to be rain. So unlike everybody else, I did not get sunburns, and most of the time, by the end of the day, you could find me in a sweatshirt and a hoodie, and I did not sleep with air conditioning on, and I froze. So while the beach was nice, this was the only day that I was actually hot, because it's pretty hot and dry and arid at this side of Costa Rica that we were on. After that first vacation that my husband and I took, we were fortunate to take another one or two to Mexico. The last time I was there, I said, I have no desire to come back to an all-inclusive. I want to go back the next time to serve somewhere along the way. So, if you love to go on a warm vacation, that's great. Now I've set myself up to do mission work because God took that in his hand, and he shoulder tapped, I guess, Phil to ask me this summer, because I did not originally sign up for this trip. And he said, do you want to go to Costa Rica? And I said, okay, I guess this is my call. I will go because I have to go serve in a warm country. But I said, only if my daughter can come too, because she really wants to be a missionary overseas someday, somewhere, maybe. And every trip she's ever tried to go on gets canceled, either due to COVID or numerous other trips. So I kind of went to support her, but along the way I learned a few things. So the next picture, this is not what we ate every day. This is what I got to experience one day. Most of the time we ate rice and beans 3 times a day. Most people haven't said that yet, but you need to know that's what we ate. But these shrimp were the size of our hands. Trina, myself, and Stephanie, who had gone along, decided we needed to get out of the sun, and we ordered 5 shrimp as an appetizer. They were the size of our hands, so I said, we need to share this. Next picture. This is a vast opposite from where we were. So I know you've seen some houses before, and they said they were middle of the road, but there's a lady sitting in that house, and that other small building there is an outhouse. They have, most of these places do have electricity and running water, but they have no hot water. There's no hot water for the most part anywhere in Costa Rica. You want to go to the next picture? This is, I think, Maggie delivering a backpack, and this particular area is even less developed. Some of the very worst houses were literally pallets with black garbage bags or black plastic on them. Some of the very best were concrete facilities. And if you want to go to the next picture. Okay, so this is a picture of us teaching the ladies a craft. It's a video, but it's not playing yet. Do you want to play it, Henry? Yep, perfect. So this is, by the end of the week, we had most of the days as many women and girls learning how to sew as they had kids playing. Not quite, but really close to it. It was a lot of fun. I determined that I didn't want to just go take something pretty, but Trina and I wanted to give them a skill that they could use. So some of these women got so excited about these projects, and I'm sure they had never picked up a needle before because they didn't know how to tie a knot. And they would produce a lot of interesting things. So if you want to flip to the next picture. I don't know if you can see what she's doing, and unfortunately you can't zoom in, but these women come from absolute nothing. If you look at her fingers and her fingernails, they are beautifully done, and she has them painted, and I have no idea why these are so important to them, but their personal care and hygiene and the way that they look, they are unbelievably clean. If you saw the soccer that those guys were playing in the mud, I don't know how the kids stay clean. They have no hot water, and they live in mud, and they don't have much. But they took so much care of themselves, and so they were so excited about these crafts. If you want to go to the next picture. This was the coolest thing. After some of them created their projects, we had some T-shirts for them to do and showed them how to take a simple silk screen and add on to that. And then we also got some pillowcases and just had them create their own things. And this says in Spanish, because I took a picture of it and I went to Damian and I said, is this what I think it says? And he said, yep. It says, Jesus loves me and I love him too. So obviously some of the things that we were saying are getting through to them. Unlike Canada, Costa Rica's national religion is Catholicism. They do have a national religion. So most everybody has been exposed to the gospel, but they don't necessarily have a personal relationship with them. That's what Emily and Damian's mission, I think, is to teach them that you can have a personal relationship. So the exciting thing about this trip for me was one of the very first, actually the very first team that Emily and Damian had one of our former day camp staff on their team, and they were the first team to go out there. So it's so exciting to see what has come along, or how they've come along since then. If you want to flip to the next picture, that would be great. Biggest challenge for me is not that I'm old, but like everyone else, I don't love to travel. I get motion sickness. So the very first day we arrived, I think it was sort of a standing joke. People kept taking pictures. Anytime that somebody wasn't talking to me or I didn't have to walk, you would find me sleeping. We were waiting at McDonald's for our food, and I fell fast asleep on the table. We were waiting for the bus. I fell fast asleep on the side of the road. I know when Tim picked us up at the airport, I fell fast asleep because I have to take gravel and narcotics, which you don't think gravel is, but for me, they're like hard narcotics. It wipes me right out. So the hardest part of the trip was just nauseousness. I don't do well with that. Yeah. So the things that I guess I would take away from this trip for me was that basically women, children, kids, people are the same everywhere. They need Jesus just as much there as they do here. And it just reinforced that although I'm really tired and worn out, and I was the oldest person on the trip, that my job here, whether that's teaching music or being involved in day camps, is not over, and I need to do it until I guess I can't anymore. And so I don't always get to play the old lady card, but some days I feel like it.
I really thought you were going to put me after Brennan, and so I was like ready. And then there were like several more people, which was probably good because I like teared up a little bit. I had a moment to collect myself. There were so many things I loved about our Costa Rica trip. First of all, I loved seeing what Damian and Emily's ministry looks like. I had the pleasure of working at camp with Emily when we were teenagers, so it was really cool to go down there and see what she's doing and work with her again because we have always just gotten along really well. The other thing I really loved about our trip was just witnessing the people of our church use the gifts that God has given them to serve the people of Costa Rica. I loved watching Victoria and Trina work with the women in the communities on the cross-stitching projects. I loved watching Brennan and Phil and Joe and Brody and Carter and Cassie and Evie play hour after hour of soccer, sometimes in the scorching heat and sometimes in the torrential downpour. I loved watching Maggie chase butterflies with Damian and Emily's son Ezra. I loved watching Liam sit at the coloring table and color with the children, and I loved turning the jump rope with Lauren for hour upon hour. I think the biggest challenge for me on the trip was just getting there. It's hard for me to leave the kids. And even though I know they're always like so well taken care of, it's just hard to leave them here and go somewhere else. And so yeah, that like the weeks leading up to the trip, I was like, why am I going? Like maybe I should just stay with the kids and Brennan can go. Like, do I really need to go? And I'm thankful that when I was feeling like that, the Lord would just remind me that like he called me to do this, and going was acting in obedience to what he had asked me to do. So like even as we were leaving the church, as we were like getting in vehicles and leaving the church, I was like, I was still like feeling really anxious about leaving. But after we arrived in Costa Rica and we got there and we started doing things, like I didn't feel like I felt so much peace, so much of God's peace. And I didn't feel anxious at all. So, and was really able to like live in the moment on our trip. So that was really awesome. I think the biggest thing I learned on this trip, I think a few of us have touched on it, was just trust. The speed at which people do life in Costa Rica is very different than what we have going on here in Canada. There were moments when I just wanted to like overhaul what was going on, like make a schedule, laminate it, post it, like you go here at this time and you go here at this time. And like, that is just not how they do things. They're just like, time, we don't believe in time. We'll do it when we get there and everything will get done and it's all good. I'm just like so tightly wound that I was like, no, it's not okay. So we had to trust that Damian and Emily knew what they were doing, which they obviously did. And in putting our trust in them, we were able to serve how the Lord wanted us to serve because we trusted our leaders, Damian and Emily, to show us the right things to do. So that was really good for me to just chill. And yeah, I think like going forward from this, like just like we had to trust that Damian and Emily knew what they were doing, I know that there's stuff in my life that I don't want to trust God with because I think that I probably know better, which I don't. And so just like we had to trust Damian and Emily to know what they were doing, I know there's things that I need to trust God with because he knows what he's doing and is calling me to act in obedience with those things. I was really thankful for the way that the trip stretched me mentally, physically, spiritually, and I'm really thankful for the team of people that I got to go serve with.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lauren Riley, and I'm like Alyssa, and I like to have a plan, so not knowing the order like stresses me out. I've been a teacher for about a year now, and I should have learned by this point that I should just go with flow, but I still like having a plan and sticking to it. But that's okay. I think I have a couple pictures there, Hank. Yeah, I'll talk about these first and then I'll do my short little blurb. I know everyone's anxious to go out for lunch, so I kept it kind of short. So this was on the first day that we were in Costa Rica serving with the ladies ministry. And it was really, really encouraging seeing how fast these women took on to this skill and just the way that my mom and Trina were able to just bring them under their wings and teach them these really important and really cool skills that they were able to even flip and make a profit on by the end of the week. That was really encouraging. And Marjorie's just in the picture. Oh, just back, Hank, thanks. Marjorie's in that picture. We talked about her briefly. She was our translator. She, I can't remember. She has a medical degree to do translations or recording. Thank you. Medical records. And her and I connected quite a lot during the week. Just her passion for being able to teach others and even considering what teaching would look like for her. And that was really, really encouraging, being able to talk to her and some of the other young adults that were trying to learn English and serve in their own community as teachers in a similar fashion that I've been trying to do for myself here in Canada. You can flip to the next one now, Hank. Thanks. As mentioned before, there were lots of really, really terrible housing situations. The weather is very different. They don't have -50, but they still do have a cooler season and a hotter season, and they need protection for their family from the weather. And this was a better off home than some of the other ones, but like my mom was mentioning, there were some homes that were literally a piece of tin with 4 sticks and some curtains hanging up, and that was their home. So that was really eye-opening to see that and see how privileged we are here in Canada with everything that we have. Phil had asked us to prepare a few answers to 4 questions. So I absolutely loved serving alongside missionaries and serving the people of Costa Rica, so much so that Taylor was very concerned I was not returning home. I love the genuine joy and simplicity of how the people interacted. They didn't have much, but they still were so polite and gave absolutely all that they could. This reminded me in many points of when there was the woman who gave her last coin to Jesus and just the love and joy that she had in that. These people were that, and it was really incredible to see. I was really challenged by the language barrier. I've worked with people who don't speak English as their first language, so that was a really good, helpful skill for myself. But it was frustrating at times, seeing Phil talk to these people like in a Spanish conversation, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I'm picking up every other word barely. Another challenge was the heat. I'm okay with dry heat, but it was like a sauna, and I'm very white. So that was difficult for me to navigate. And lastly, I was actually really challenged by the youth, and not in a bad way. Watching the youth engage with the people their age and just engaging with the language was a really great reminder that there's no excuses to interfere with the gospel and the work of Christ, and that we need to try. That there's no excuse that trying, God will use you however you are, even if your Spanish sucks. I honestly thought at the end of this trip that I would have like a very clear answer. Like I said, I like having a plan, sticking to it. If any of you know my story, I'm a planner to the very bone of my nature, and the Lord has continually been like, no, I'm going to take that from you, Lauren, and you have to be okay with that. So for me, I've always thought that I was called to overseas missions in Africa, and honestly, I'm not really sure what that looks like still, but trusting the Lord and leaning in to what He's calling me for my life is a little bit confusing, scary, daunting, all of the above, but also just really calling me to trust Him, whether I'm doing missions here in Melfort or in Africa or who knows where. That God has given me specific skills and gifts that will serve people in a way that someone else maybe wouldn't be able to, and that I can continue to trust Him through that. And looking forward, I'm going to continue to pursue what missions is going to look like for me in my life. And I was challenged to live more missionally wherever I am and look for ways to serve people even in the midst of my exhaustion or honestly just being peopled out. That I need to just be able to pour into the people with whatever I have and whatever strength the Lord has given me. So thank you so much for supporting us through prayer and finances. And this was an amazing trip. So thank you for the opportunity.
My name is Evie, as you can see on the screen, and the last thing that my mom said to us when we went on this trip is, your one mission is to come home safely. So Mom, mission accomplished, we got home. All of our team, we were fighting exhaustion, heat, humid, rain, all of this on this trip, and I remember one night when me and Alyssa were in our room, we spent 5 minutes laughing about one pencil in a pencil case. So we were very tired the whole trip, but God blessed us and we got through it. The one or few things I loved about this trip was the feeling that I was doing something for God, because here we have all felt like we should be doing something, but maybe we feel a little embarrassed, or we feel like it won't do anything, so we just don't. Yeah, well, that feeling was thrown out the window just as soon as we got there. All these kids looked up to us and wanted us to be on their soccer teams, wanted us to blow bubbles with them, and just wanted us to have fun with them. You can go to the next picture, Hank. I felt that we made a real impact on those kids and adults, both spiritually and in making friendships with them. Another few things I loved was playing soccer in a complete downpour and showing those kids that us gringos aren't going to quit just because of little rain. Gringos means white people. I also was one of the only persons on our team out there one day, and I was talking with a few of the kids and actually had some 3 or 4 sentence conversations in Spanish, which I was pretty proud of. We were just exchanging English and Spanish, and a few of them even wanted to learn a little bit of English. I don't know what the deal with the pictures is, Hank, so you can just keep going if you want. Oh, yeah. Another thing that I love is how well the soccer boys from our team and in Costa Rica really connected, because Damian said that the Costa Rica kids don't really have father figures to look up to. Usually they're almost always working in pineapple fields, or they've just left. So it is really amazing to see how well they connected with the kids and connected with the guys on our team. what challenged me most, and some of the team picked up on this already, is the delivering backpacks. Is when we were seeing the houses. When we were delivering backpacks on the first day, it looked like the houses were like literally being held together by a thread. Just shacks you would see in those documentaries where people travel the world, and you look at them and you think that it just can't be real. And there are families of sometimes 7 or more in these tiny little shacks. And on that first day, my biggest concern was how dirty my shoes were getting. So what I learned from this trip is if you are willing to trust wholeheartedly in Jesus and throw yourself out of your comfort zone, his work will be done. When I was doing my lesson, I was shaking so bad, like I am right now, and I couldn't hold my paper without it being noticeable, and I'm sure some of my teammates can relate to that. Usually I hate soccer, and I'm the person who either stands at one end of the field, cherry picking, or just sneaks off the field because I don't want to. But despite all that, all of us stepped out of our comfort zone, and God's work was done in Costa Rica. I also want to share a little bit of the little lesson that I did. So I'm just going to put the mic down because I inherited my dad's loud voice, and I can talk loud. Done on how Jesus changes us. So I had water in a cup, and just imagine that this water is disgusting. It's dirty. It's us. This is our sin. It was poured into Jesus, and the whole idea is Jesus takes our sin away. Thanks.
Thank you for your patience. I know it's a lot. You've been sitting for a while, and I don't have a terribly long sermon for you. I don't have a sermon for you at all. Lots of what I was going to say was already said, so I won't go through it all again. It was a real privilege to minister with my kids. Thank you for letting that happen. I loved doing ministry with Damian and Emily. They are good missionaries, like Brennan said. They work hard. They don't do things according to our plan. I know that bothered a fair number of us, schedules and all that stuff. What I'm going to do going forward, well, I'll tell you a few things. What challenged me, the number of things that went wrong before we went and when we went. But Christians are the only people who can be thankful when things go wrong, because we know the enemy is also working, but the work of the Lord will not be thwarted. Realizing that I'm the coach behind the bench rather than the player on the ice, that was hard. I like being the guy in the middle. I like being the awesome guy who gets a lot of attention, and it wasn't me this time, and that's okay. I was challenged to be a patient leader behind the scenes, helping others to accept the challenge of being uncomfortable or inconvenienced without negatively reacting myself. Going forward, I want to be a lot like the guy you see on the screen. Emily was a fantastic mom to her kids and support behind the scenes. Damian was unafraid to share the gospel with everybody who spoke his language. I know that that's something that comes really easy when you go to a foreign country. It's easy to share the gospel because they don't understand you. But when they understand you and they can have a negative reaction towards you, that costs us something. So Damian is unafraid to talk about his faith, impromptu for long periods of time. It was really inspiring to watch. I'm looking forward to connecting with him going forward from now on. One thing that I do want to end with before we sing our last song is an appreciation of my team. Cassie already did that, you turkey. You didn't know. But I have a little something for each of the team. And so I'll just call them up real quick. This won't take long. This is Brennan, the man with 1,000 nicknames. They called him Rojo Grande, which is big red. Or Rojo Gringo, which is red-white. Or Granero, which means barn. And he even had an inside joke with our bus driver where the bus driver called him Master. None of us picked that one up, but he was always playing. He's willing to set up the winning team. He always was willing to be on the winning team with the Costa Ricans. He blew up his shoes on the first day. He got sick a few times, never got in his head. He talked to everybody. He always hung out with people. He always makes people feel valued. So thanks, man. I appreciate that. Alyssa wins the Irrefutable Argument Award. She fearlessly defended the reading of audiobooks for days at a time. Alyssa is dependable, energetic, enthusiastic, looked after my girl. I held babies and turned the jump rope until her shoulders were sore. Thank you, Alyssa. Brody gets the Eternal Napper Award. He got sniped at least 15 times sleeping. He loved playing soccer and sleeping. He lost an arm wrestle to a pineapple farmer half his size. He loved learning Spanish. He has a nickname, 50 Cent, which he can explain to you. He ate so much food all the time. He had an amazing attitude, and I really appreciated having you, man. Thank you. Cassie gets the Devo Buddy Award. Everyone was doing devotions and devotionals on this trip, but Cassie was up before everybody else on the team other than me and was with me at a table doing devotions every morning. She worked hard. She was enthusiastic with everything. She was great friends with Charo and Brianna, the two of the youth that we had there. She was enthusiastic and did pretty much everything well. So thank you, Devo Buddy. Maggie gets the Mariposa Award. She did well at everything, but excelled with Ezra. She had some tough days, but shook them off. She loved being with the little kids the most other than her own age. Mariposa is her nickname with Ezra. Damian and Emily were very thankful for your extra mile with him. So congratulations. Evie gets the I don't care, I'm playing soccer anyways award. She played soccer with the boys the whole time. Our whole team went inside one day. She did not. She played out in the deluge. It's unbelievable rain. She went outside. She was always ready to do what we needed. She had a great attitude. She knew Spanish better than I thought she did and corrected me a couple of times. Thank you, Evie. Joe gets the Sniper Award. Easily took the most pictures of people sleeping than anybody. Did well at all things, but was the actual MVP at soccer. Slept like a vampire, played soccer like crazy, always stiff and sore and stretching. Had to do the most rolling with things as his room was changed, painted, and switched with a bloody mattress. Taught the most of all of us. He taught the most times and the most minutes. So thanks, Joe. Carter gets the Trash Talker Award. Carter was always running back and forth on the soccer field, yelling various phrases in Spanish and English, not caring what anybody understood as he ran around. Tried his hardest to get out of kitchen duty, was always clueless about it. Played soccer really hard. It was a great guy to be with on this trip. Thanks, Carter. Victoria gets the Sleeper Award. Easily the most surprising skill on the trip was led by Victoria and Trina. That's the sleeper. It's the sports term for who knew that was actually going to go well. I really didn't know about teaching the people how to embroider, but she also slept the hardest of anyone on the trip during travel, was probably the most challenged as far as some of the scheduling stuff, but was very, very effective. So thank you very much. Trina gets the 100 Award. 100, as you'll see on the backs of our shirts, just means all in. No one put more energy and got more out of this trip than Trina. She happily looked ridiculous, acted crazy, told a professional bus driver of 20 years how to drive, and was the most enthusiastic singer of the singing times. She gets the 100 Award. Lauren gets the Finally award. She's been trying to go on a missions trip for years and finally did it. She happily worked behind the scenes, doing little jobs that often didn't get seen. It was great to see you working hard, taking care of people, and encouraging others as you did it. Liam gets the 12 award. 12 is 12 in Spanish. He could not say it, ever. He did well, was overcome by sickness near the end, dealt with an injury and some mental health struggles. He was great to play music with. His melodica was awesome. He loved the youth group and was ignited by that more than anything else. He pushed through some mental illness and was able to recover. Here's your 12 award. Remember how to say it. There's one left. I get the Creeper award because I watched everybody. I can confidently say how proud I am of my team. I was loved doing all the ministry that I did with you guys. Part of my job isn't to be the guy on the field playing anymore. It's to watch and see where I can help and keep things going. As I did that, I wished I could be as strong as effective in other ways, but I was able to watch you guys and see you succeed. I am super proud of the team and of you as a church, not only for getting through this marathon of a service, but for sending this team to go to Costa Rica. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.